Welcome everyone to our monthly consumer issue program here at Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County. I'm Mike Danaher, Assistant Attorney General with the New York State Attorney General's Office, and it's a pleasure to be back out here with you as I'm approaching my 20th anniversary doing this. It doesn't seem right, but today we're here to talk about issues involving avoiding and resolving problems with car purchases and repairs. That is one of the main topics that our office receives as far as complaints each year. The Attorney General announces yearly what the hierarchy of different complaints that we've received. And frequently car purchases and repairs are one of the top problems that our office receives. And when you think about it, it makes sense because cars are probably the number one consumable product or item that we purchase throughout our lives, and many of us purchase multiple ones. But one of the largest purchases that we will make at any one particular time. But if you add up all the car purchases over the history of your driving, it probably is the highest, especially now with the cost of cars. It may even be more expensive in total than what we pay for our houses. Buy one or two houses, but the nice thing about a house is that in most instances it's not a depreciable asset, that we're able to get out of it what we put into it until we move on to our next house, which might be a bigger house, more expensive house. But with automobiles, we all know as soon as we purchase a vehicle and we drive it off the lot, the value of it plummets. And you can't sell it for what you purchased it for. It depreciates over a period of time. And so you buy a car for $15,000 and you drive it and drive it and drive it until it's worth $5,000, so you knock $10,000 off. You may sell it for the $5,000, but then you have to go out and spend another $15,000 for another vehicle. So over a period of time, the cumulative purchases add up to a significant amount of money. So we have certain expectations when we spend that kind of money on vehicles, and vehicles are getting very, very expensive. Even if you go to a lot and buy a used vehicle, it can be thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. New cars, it is not uncommon for new cars to be well in excess of $20,000 now. Even for the smaller vehicles that are out there. Now people are talking about buying the newest range of electric vehicles, which the big name there is Tesla. You buy a Tesla vehicle, where they're, in essence, recently have put on the market their, what I think Elon Musk, the creator of Tesla, said was the Model T version of the Tesla, which is the mass-produced Tesla vehicle that's out there, which I understand, fully electric, which I understand is the starting prices for those are somewhere in the neighborhood of $35,000. So that's for the Model T, the mass-produced, the one that's coming off the conveyor belt like crazy, is going to be in the neighborhood of $35,000. So that doesn't take into account the higher-end Tesla models, which are in the $80,000 range or whatever. So we can understand if we're paying that kind of money to purchase a vehicle, whether it's $10,000 or $35,000, we have certain expectations. We expect that vehicle to never have a problem and to have no issues, and then when it does, we are very upset about that. We expect them to last a really long time and give us all kinds of performance. Now, I do have to say, over the course of years, that cars are better functioning than they may have been. They have less problems as long as we keep the maintenance up to date. But we do go into this with a mindset that we need to we have some type of expectations. And so the two areas of complaints that our office receives frequently involves the purchasing of vehicles and the repairing of vehicles. And again, unlike our homes, the cars depreciate almost immediately in taking them when we take them off the lot. And most of us, to add kind of to this problem, is most of us know very little about the inner workings of the car. We expect that, well, it used to be we expected that we got down and we sit in the car and we turn the key and the engine starts up and no lights come on and that we're able to go to our destination. Of course, nowadays you sit in your car, you push a button and the car starts, and then all of a sudden it's like the cockpit of a jetliner with the lights and the different things that are attached with it. We're fast moving. The articles in the newspaper now are how we're fast approaching that area and time when we have completely autonomous cars, to where we're going to get in our car by getting in the back seat and having it take us wherever we need to go. And with all that new stuff that's being added to it, it just kind of lends itself to the more problems that can occur over a period of time. I was actually talking to a car dealer friend of mine, new car dealer friend of mine, who said to me recently that it always used to be that the most expensive employees, ones that get the most income, working at car dealerships were the salespeople selling the car. He said that's not so much anymore. And I said, well, that's the case. Who is it? He says, it's the mechanics. Because there's so much involved in the vehicles nowadays that you almost have to be a software engineer in order to rectify the problems. And so that those people with those types of skills have to be paid more. There's more training involved and constant upkeep in knowledge of the new things that are out there, how to rectify them. The service area is a larger expense because they have to have all these computers now to figure out what's wrong. They hook up to your computer, and the computer kind of tells the technician where the problem is, and with these codes and that sort of thing. So we're becoming less knowledgeable. Even if you are the handyman mechanic that can kind of fix that sort of thing, it's going to be more difficult as time goes on to be able to make those repairs yourself, because you're not going to have the equipment and software that's needed to figure out what is going on. So those of us that get in the car and push the button and expect it to run, we don't really have any knowledge of what's going on in the inner workings. Additionally, when we go in for a deal, some of us may get a little confused about the numbers that get thrown out at us on the purchase price of the car. We won't know what's this and what's that when we're trying to purchase a vehicle. So all of these things can lead to problems that we have to address by being good consumers. One is, we're not going to become software engineers, and we're not going to understand the inner workings of the vehicle, so to speak. But we can still be good consumers when it comes time to making the purchasing decision. One of the ways that we can become a good consumer is to understand all the numbers, understand all the financial numbers. Don't let it overwhelm us. Understand what the purchase price is going to be, what additions there may be to that purchase price, whether or not we need to have those additions, and such things of being good consumers is we never sign a blank document. Make sure all the numbers on the document have been filled out. Do such things as take the vehicle out for a test drive. Drive it around. See if you hear any creaks and rattles and unresponsiveness, or the brakes don't work as well, or we notice that there's some lights on the dashboard, all those sorts of things. Used vehicles, you may want to take it to a trusted mechanic, someone that is not involved in trying to sell you that car, but someone that you trust that can look over the vehicle, give you an idea of what may or may not be an issue. Familiarize yourself enough with the cars and the process so what you can do is reduce the probability that you are going to have a problem in going through the transaction. The best thing that I can tell someone in going through a buying transactions is resolve all the issues before you buy the car. That's the time when you have leverage. After you've purchased the car, you've lost your leverage because you already own the vehicle. You've already committed yourself to that contract to purchase. So get those things taken care of ahead of time. And the best way to do that, and I've said this many times when I've been here at Cornell Cooperative Extension, is do not fall in love with the vehicle before you own it. Yeah, it's a nice vehicle, it's a pretty color, you really think it's sharp looking, but don't fall in love with it until after you've married it. In other words, after you've bought it. So that you can be objective in looking at the car and kicking the tires, so to speak, going out for your test drive and that sort of thing. Make sure that you understand what's going on so that you can protect yourself. Our office actually has a brochure of consumer tips on buying a car. These tips are available through our office. You can call me in Binghamton at our consumer helpline, 1-800-771-7755. I'll give that to you again in case anybody's out running to find a piece of paper and a pen. Or you could go online and look up the Attorney General's office and it'll be available there. So the telephone number again is 1-800-771-7755 if you would like us to send you the brochure. Or for those of you who are tech savvy out there, www.ag.ny.gov. That is our website, and the consumer brochure, all of our consumer brochures are available online. And for those of you that didn't even want to get up from the couch to go and pick up a pen to write down either the telephone number or the website, just go do one of your Google or Bing searches and put in New York State Attorney General's office, and it's going to come up. And then you can go to it and go to the consumer page, and all of our brochures are there. But there are some helpful tips from the Attorney General on what to do. Some of the things that we offer out there on the brochure and as our suggestions today is one of the good things to understand in going into a purchase transaction is first decide, before you even go to the dealership and start walking through the lot and saying, oh man, this car looks really nice, and that's a really good price on that car or whatever, the first thing you need to do is to differentiate between what you need in a new car and what you want in a new car before going on to the dealership. Do some research. There's all kinds of available research online that you can do to get an idea of what type of reliability is out there, what type of value, what type of costs and expenses associated with purchasing the new vehicle. Do some research so you have something in mind. I fortunately had the opportunity recently, but more out of necessity than anything else. I had a car that had a lot of miles on it, so I went out to buy a new car. And we went online and we looked at all kinds of things before I ultimately made the decision on the vehicle that I was going to buy. And so I knew going in what was there, what was available, what bells and whistles are on the vehicle, what it was worth, so that when I went through and had my transaction, I was very comfortable. Cars are expensive, and my car was pretty expensive, But I had done my research, so I knew what I was looking for going into the transaction. Look up what the dealer's reputation is. Maybe you can check on the Better Business Bureau website to find out what reputation the dealer has, new and used car. One other thing to consider is, okay, you're in a situation where you say, well, I want to buy a car. I need a car. My other car is on its last legs. Time to get a new car. One of the first things that you need to decide is, do I want to buy from a dealer or do I want to purchase in a private sale? You know, I see this car on somebody's front yard, looks pretty good to me, and I want to go ahead and think about buying that particular car. There's some things that you need to understand. It may be less expensive for you to buy that vehicle that is in the front yard, but there are reasons for that. One is that the person involved that is selling their own personal car in the front yard, they don't have the overhead that a dealership would have, expenses associated with overhead. So sometimes you might find a better price, and that may make perfect sense to you. But it also deprives you of certain protections that you might have that are available to you if you purchase through a dealer. First of all, those who purchase cars from a dealer, each vehicle comes with lemon law protections. Now, the lemon law protections have been in existence for, maybe 30 years or more. Those lemon law protections that when they first came into existence have not changed in the length of time that they have been in existence. So, in the olden days, when these first went into effect, you were finding vehicles that were getting above 100,000 miles that were kind of on their last legs. And so when the law went into place, the lemon law only covered vehicles up to 100,000 miles. Well, now you're seeing vehicles that are lasting much longer, much longer than what they used to. So it is not uncommon to see vehicles being offered by dealerships that have well in excess of 100,000 miles that are still thousands of dollars to purchase. Well, the lemon law hasn't changed. So there are no lemon laws for vehicles that have more than 100,000 miles. So when someone complains that they bought a vehicle that had 125,000 miles on it, they paid $8,000 for the car, and shortly after they purchased the vehicle, within a month or so after purchasing the vehicle, lights came on. And there's an issue with the transmission, or there's an issue with the exhaust system, and it's going to cost hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to fix. There are no lemon law protections. So for those of you who are buying a vehicle that is in excess of 100,000 miles, you have to understand that the only protections available are that the Department of Motor Vehicles against dealers, has a general provision that at the time the vehicle is sold, it must be roadworthy. It isn't that it must be roadworthy 1 week later, 2 weeks later, a month, or 2 months later. It has to be roadworthy at the time of sale. If it is roadworthy at the time of sale, there may be no warranties attached. So something to consider when you're saying, okay, I have the chance to buy a vehicle that has 60,000 miles, and I have a chance to buy a vehicle that has 105,000 miles from a dealer. What am I going to choose? One thing that has to go into the calculation, obviously the 105,000 mile car is going to be less expensive in all likelihood than the 60,000 mile vehicle, but you have to understand there usually is no warranties attached to the one that is being purchased. But purchases from dealers, to the extent that the lemon law covers, purchases from dealers are covered under lemon law. There are no lemon law warranties in a private sale. So if you buy it from your neighbor, even though the car has 60,000 miles on it, there are no lemon law protections. Another thing is dealers must be registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles. They must obey certain state and federal laws in order to protect you during your purchase. So that's another consideration. Dealers also must have your vehicle inspected at the time of purchase. So that gives you some protections that it would pass inspection. Private individuals do not. Dealers must provide service or repairs under the manufacturer's warranty for those of you that are purchasing vehicles that still have a manufacturer's warranty. Private people do not. Dealers must indicate in writing on the bill of sale whether the vehicle being sold is new, used, reconstructed, rebuilt, or salvaged vehicles, or are not manufactured according to U.S. standards, meaning that it was manufactured in another country or something under their standards. Dealers must provide the buyer with a completed odometer and damage disclosure statement. Damage meaning that it had been completely damaged, like totaled, and disclose to you whether the vehicle was previously used as a rental. That's not a lease vehicle. A lease vehicle is a longer term thing, a new kind of a newfangled, relatively speaking, as compared to the Lemon Law when it went into effect. There's new kind of financing arrangement is leasing vehicles rather than purchasing them outright. Something we'll talk about in a little while, but rental, meaning that it was used like by enterprise or something like that. You have to have it disclosed. So whether it was used as a police vehicle or something like that, that may have what we commonly would perceive as hard use. It's been used rather hard. I think we can all agree that there are people out there that would treat a rental car differently than they treat their own personal car as far as how they drive it. So those are the kind of things that some people need to consider. Do I do a personal transaction or do I go through a dealer? Another thing is are you looking to purchase the vehicle or lease the vehicle? Differences is with the lease is exactly that. You're leasing it from somebody. Somebody else is the actual owner of the vehicle. You are leasing it as compared to purchasing it where you become the outright owner. Now, leasing has become more fashionable of recent. Why? Because usually the monthly payment associated with leasing the vehicle is less than if you had to pay the monthly payment. I've never leased a vehicle. I've always been a purchaser for a couple of reasons. One is I put heavy mileage on my car so that I can't. With leases, you're usually limited to the amount of mileage that you can put on it each year, and I typically will go over what the usual mileage is on that. And second of all, I tend to keep my cars for a long period of time until I really rack up the mileage and it's time to put it in. So I'll buy a vehicle, and let's say if I have a 3, 4, 5 year payment, my payment will be a little more than it is for a lease, but I have that comfort in my mind that others may not really care that much about, which is there's going to be a day down the road where I don't have a car payment anymore. Whereas with a lease, you always have a car payment. You pay it each month, and at the end, it could be a 3-year lease, let's say. At the end of the 3 years, you have to turn the vehicle in and get a new lease, so continue with that monthly payment, or you have to buy the vehicle outright. At the end of the lease, pay a chunk of change to continue owning that particular car. So you have to decide, what works best for me. If you say, hey, look, I'd like to own the car, but you know what? I don't put a lot of miles on the car. And I like the fact that at the end of a period of time, I can go get a new car. I just like having a new car every 3 years. And maybe the leasing is appropriate for you. So going into the transaction, you need to know. One thing that you should not focus on completely or solely is my sole focus is the monthly payment. I don't care about anything else. I can afford X number of dollars. That's it. I'm just focused on the monthly payment. Because the purchasing of a vehicle is more than just the monthly payment. And it really, you need to decide, do I lease or why, and why? And I would hope that the main factors going into that, in addition to price, are what is my use of the vehicle? What am I going to be using it for? And what kind of miles am I going to be put on it? Do I want a new car frequently, and make the decision that way? And then you can make a good choice on whether to purchase it. Another thing going in is, what can I afford? The worst thing that can happen to you in purchasing a vehicle is to be talked into what you can afford. And what I think, when you say to yourself, what can I afford, is how much are you willing to spend on the vehicle in total? How much am I willing to spend? $15,000, $20,000, $8,000. What am I willing to spend? And then you can decide as a part of that, okay, I'm willing to spend that much money on a car. How am I going about spending that money? How much am I going to pay up front? How much am I going to pay monthly? And in addition to the monthly payment, understand that your monthly payment is a function of three things. And you really have to focus on that. And that is the amount you're borrowing, the total amount you're borrowing, the pool of money you're borrowing, the interest rate that you are being charged for that money, and the length of time that you are going to pay it back. I am seeing car loans now that are stretching out to 8 years. You used to never see that. It used to be 3, then 4, then up to 5 years. Now it's 6, 7, 8 years that is being stretched out. A function of that being is cars are lasting longer. But back in the olden days, you never saw anybody wanting to finance a car for 8 years, because who knows if it would have lasted that long. And the thing that the bank financing company, bank or other financier, is concerned about is they want to make sure, to the best of the ability, is that the car will always be worth more than what you owe them. So in the event that you don't pay them, they can have the car repossessed and sold and then get their money back. There are some instances, almost invariably in an auto loan, especially a shorter length auto loan, that you are what in the industry is referred to as upside down, meaning you owe more than what the vehicle is worth. And banks don't like that. Financial institutions don't like that, because if they were to have to repossess the vehicle and they have it sold, there's a gap where they're actually owed more money than what the car is worth. So if they sell the car, you still owe them the money, and then they have to come back to you to try to get you to pay it back. And we have to understand that. We have to understand that there may be a situation at one point during the loan where that may happen. And then as the loan gets more paid off, it flips back. But we have to understand that. So the higher the interest rate, everybody knows this, the higher the interest rate, the higher your payment's going to be. That makes sense. But also, the longer the loan is, the less you have to pay each month. But the important thing that we as good consumers have to understand is, the longer the loan, the more we're going to pay in total. We may pay a little bit less each month, but when you add in the whole 8 years of the thing, we have to pay a significant amount of money to borrow to pay for this car. So being a good consumer, the thing that we have to focus on is, how much are we going to pay in total? How much do we pay, and is it worth it to us to pay that amount? Know this going into the transaction. Know what you can expect based on your credit standing of what your interest rate is, so that when you go in to negotiate your deal, that you have a good idea of where the parameters are in how much you're going to pay. Do some homework and kind of figure out what the dealer, you can actually go online. I did it when I purchased my cars. You can find out how much the dealer actually has to pay for that new car. You know how much the manufacturer is charging that dealer. You can figure it out. And that's something that you can think about in going through and doing your deal. Because the idea here is, let's be frank. The idea is you aren't out to rip off the dealer. You're only out there to make sure you get a fair deal. And the best way to figure out what a fair deal is to understand what the terms are going in. What are some other things? Examine the vehicle. Examine it in the light of day. Look closely for any evidence that there might have been any collision and things. Pop the hood. Take a look. Look underneath. See if you can see that there might be any damage. Check paint. Check lights and mirrors for any cracks. Check for any interior signs of damage or wear. Are all the seat belts in place? Look under the rugs. Is there any rust that might be showing? Open the trunk, examine for leaks, check for, is there in some instances, one of the cars that we bought throughout the years didn't have a spare tire. Well, that's because the car was made that way. It was made with the kind of car that we bought had these things called run flats, which means they're tires that can actually work even though you've had a flat. You can still drive them for a while. So it didn't necessitate necessarily that you have a spare, but you had to get the car to the repair shop to get the new tire or that tire fixed before too long. Well, those tires were really expensive. So when we had to replace them, and they had to be replaced frequently, it was just something that we took into account in our decision. Make sure that there are no lights coming on the dashboard. Make sure the car warms up and has no lights come on when you're driving it. Take it for a test drive. Pay attention to everything. Don't just have the music cranked up really loud. Turn the music off and listen to how it's going. Drive on local streets. Drive on the highway. When you're going in to decide on whether or not you're going to purchase a particular vehicle, make sure you're satisfied that that you want and need additional add-ons. I mean, when you're talking about modern day cars now, I'll just give you an example. My car that I currently have, I recently purchased, has all the bells and whistles. I'm probably pretty close to, I was telling somebody the other day, okay, I bought this car. It's going to last me a really long time. It's a great car, and hopefully it'll last me a really long time. It has all the bells and whistles on it. And I said, I think the next car that I buy will probably be an autonomous car. If I'll stretch it out long enough and all the research is coming up that we have self-driving cars, it's probably going to be a self-driving car. But mine's as close as you can get to it at this stage. That I've got these things in it where, if I can hit a button so that it gives me lane deviation so that if I start to go out of the lane, the car actually pulls back into the lane and then gives me a message saying, hey, you got to start steering here. And it has all kinds of other cool stuff. I'm behind somebody and I'm on cruise control. It keeps me back a certain distance from the car in front of me. I'm driving along and I haven't really still gotten used to it yet. And I'm driving along and I'm saying, I'm on the highway and I was going along at 65 miles an hour. And there's a car ahead of me and I'm comfortably back from the car. How come my car is now going 62? How come my car is going 60? And then I go, that's because it's keeping me back automatically. If I pull out into the passing lane, it automatically speeds back up to 65 miles an hour. So I got all these bells and whistles on. Is that something that you really need? I don't know. But make sure that these add-ons, they cost money. And make sure that it's something going in. Is this something you want? Cars are coming with satellite radio now. Do I really need to have the satellite radio? Is it worth the expense and that sort of thing? So these are all the things that you go in. And then you go in and negotiate. You go in and know that what a fair deal is, and then go ahead and get what you think is a fair price. Also, shop around in purchasing the car and financing the car. check around ahead of time. Check with your bank. Find out what the interest rate is, what interest rate you could expect if you got a car loan through your bank. So that when you go to the dealership, you'll know going in if they say to you, I'll grab an interest rate out of the air. Let's say that you can get an interest rate from your local bank of 5%. And so you go in and you find the car, you decide, they put you with the finance guy, and the finance guy says, okay, how are you going to pay for this? You say, okay, I'll put X number of dollars down, and what kind of financing can you get me? And the person may come back and say, okay, well, we have this one bank that we always do our deals through, and they can give you 6%. Great, the best deal they're giving to anybody. Well, you know going in that your bank will already give you 5%. So negotiate with them and say, well, I need to know what the best rate is that you can give me. And negotiate. And if the person says, well, we can give you 5.5%, you still know you can get 5%. You say, no thanks, I'll go to my own bank and I'll get my own financing, unless you can do something better. Make sure you get everything in writing, all terms and conditions. If somebody says to you, yeah, we'll take care of that afterwards, put it down in writing. Make sure it's there so that you can rely upon it. Nowadays, everybody has access to, all the dealerships have access to different reports for actually your particular vehicle. You put the long VIN number, the vehicle identification number, in a website. The federal government actually has a website called SaferGov, or SaferCar.gov, I believe it is, that you can put in the VIN number for the vehicle, and you can find out if there are any outstanding recalls. Still outstanding. Recalls come out all the time on vehicles. 2014, whatever vehicle, they may have recently identified an issue that needs to be corrected. You can go to the SaferCar.gov website, put in that vehicle identification number in, and it will tell you if there are any outstanding recalls. You should ask your dealer that you are dealing with, are there any outstanding recalls? And I want that taken care of before I purchase this vehicle. Our office recently had an initiative where we looked at dealers, looked at cars and followed cars that were being advertised by dealers that we knew had outstanding recalls, and we followed them to see if dealers were still selling them with the outstanding recalls. And we actually had dozens of agreements with dealers that imposes upon those dealers the obligation to check and make sure if there are any outstanding recalls, and to advise consumers before they purchase the vehicle that there are outstanding recalls. Now, if the purchaser wanted to go ahead and buy it anyway with the outstanding recall, then at least they knew. It's a notice thing. We wanted to make sure that consumers were notified. So I encourage all of you, run the vehicle identification number, or have the dealer run the vehicle identification number through the SaferCar.gov website to make sure that there are no outstanding recalls. And if so, make sure that they get fixed. Because these recalls are fixed by the manufacturer under their recall policy, and the repairs have to be done by authorized repair shops. So if you're at a used car dealer, they may not be an authorized repair shop. They would have to actually deliver the vehicle to the manufacturer's authorized repair shop to have that recall item fixed and make sure that that gets done. There is no, I'll emphasize that, there is no 3-day right of rescission when you purchase a car. That does not exist. So don't purchase a car, sign a contract thinking, oh, that's all right, I can cancel it within 3 days. You cannot cancel it. So before you sign anything, make sure that's the vehicle that you want. Another thing to consider is, do you want to purchase an extended warranty? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You have to make the decision. It can be expensive, and you have to know what is covered. Make sure that you are using a reputable warranty company. Are you using the manufacturer warranty? So every new vehicle comes with a manufacturer warranty that I'm aware of. I don't see, it's usually 3 years to 36,000 miles, whichever come first. Some of them have extended longer periods of time on certain components of the car. It could be as much as 100,000 miles for certain components. But then they may also have through the manufacturer or through an independent party, independent warranty company, extended warranties. Maybe that's appropriate. You may want to have extended warranty. Maybe because you keep vehicles all the way through for over 100,000 miles, you may want coverage up to 100,000 miles and the manufacturer doesn't give it, so you end up spending money to purchase an extended warranty. Understand what that's going to cover. Does it cover everything? Or does it just cover major components? Does it cover just the engine? What do you have to do to make a warranty claim? Such as, do you have to pay to have the diagnostics done initially to determine that it is actually covered by the warranty before the warranty company will cover it? Because that means you're going to have to, out-of-pocket expense, pay the mechanic to rip the engine apart to figure out what the cause of it was, and is it something covered? Is prior authorization required before you can make a warranty repair and have it fixed? What's the reputation of the warranty company? The warranty is only as good as the reputation of the company that's issuing the warranty. Check these sorts of things. As far as maintenance and repairs go, make sure you go to reputable, licensed repair shops. Motor vehicles actually do need to be maintained. I mean, you need oil changes and tire rotations and other things done along the way. Make sure you find a reputable, licensed repair shops. All repair shops must be licensed through the Department of Motor Vehicles. Make sure that the shop that you're going to is registered with the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. They have to have a big sign. There's 3 signs they have to have if they want to be fully inclusive. That's a licensed sales shop, licensed inspection shops, so you can do New York State inspections, and licensed repair shops. Make sure that they have all 3, especially if you're going to have a repair done. Make sure that it's a licensed repair shop. Ask for recommendations. Be a good consumer. Ask for recommendations. See if the repair shop would honor your warranty, the warranty that you had purchased. Don't look for the cheapest. Price is a factor, but make sure the repair shop foremost is able to do your repair. I remember, I use an old story. This is a long, long time ago, over 30 years ago. When we were first, my wife and I were first married, and we had just started jobs. We were done with our school, and we had a car, and we had a problem. As I best recall, it had something to do with the emergency brake. Emergency brake came on, light came on, and we took it to some place. We didn't know any better. We were young and crazy and stupid. And we took it to this place, and they got it back, and the light was off. And then we realized later on that the reason why the brake light was off was because the guy had used, the mechanic at this shop, who turns out they had hired him, but he really wasn't qualified to do what he did, is he actually held up our brake, the brake pedal, the emergency brake pedal, with a zip tie. That's what he used to fix it. It was a zip tie, which made it impossible to use the emergency brake. So that was definitely not an appropriate repair. I can assure you first of all, the place we took it back, the owner of the place ultimately retired, who was a good guy and did stuff. It was just somebody that was working there. They immediately fired that mechanic and brought our car back in and made it good. But again, make sure that you know who you're dealing with. Get all of your invoices, keep a record of the invoices to make sure that you keep a record of what repairs were necessarily done. Insist on getting the invoice for repair even if it is covered under a warranty. Make sure you get a copy of it. And a good reason for that is that one of the factors in making a warranty claim, a lemon law warranty claim, which I'll talk about in a minute, is a function of how many repair attempts you've made for a particular vehicle. So make sure you keep a copy of everything that was done. And as we kind of morph over it, the last topic that I'm going to talk about is New York's lemon law. I touched on a little bit earlier where I said the maximum warranty, the maximum mileage on a car in New York that would be covered by a lemon law warranty is 100,000 miles. But there are other particulars as well. First particular is there are two lemon law warranties in New York. New car warranties and used car warranties. And they are distinctly different. So if you're buying a new car and that's a car up to 18,000 miles when you purchase the vehicle, you get a new car warranty. If it is above 18,000 miles, then you would get to 100,000 miles. You would get a used car warranty, and it depends on how much mileage there is as to what is covered and what length of time is covered. Understand some parameters. New York's lemon law is a minimum warranty. You are going to get more warranty coverage under your manufacturer's warranty than you get under the lemon law warranty, except to the extent that under New York's new and used car lemon law warranty, the ultimate result, if it cannot be fixed, is the manufacturer or the dealer must give you all your money back. That's the one really good advantage. It must give you your money back if your car falls within the lemon law warranty. But it is a minimum warranty. However, although being a minimum warranty, it is non-waivable. So a dealer must give you this minimum New York lemon law warranty if you buy the vehicle from them. The lemon law warranty does not limit the consumer to filing actions against the dealer, such as breach of contract or negligence or fraud. Those sorts of things are not. You can still always do that if you want to bring a case. But it provides ways in which the consumer can seek redress for a vehicle that doesn't comply with a lot less of a hassle than having to go through a whole blown out legal action. Consumers have been very successful throughout the years in bringing lemon law cases. Generally speaking, it has worked out to roughly, each year it varies, but roughly 2/3 of the time that consumers bring lemon law cases, they're successful. 1/3 of the time they're not, so that's pretty good. The odds more recently have dropped a little bit under 2/3, but it's been over 60% usually for success rates in lemon law cases. It's resulted in hundreds of millions of dollars in restitution going back to consumers in the scope of giving their money back. So let's talk about the two, new and used car. New car. It applies to vehicles that are being used for personal, family, or household use, which means predominantly used, which means more than 50% of the time it's being used for personal, family, or household purposes. It does not cover cars that are being used for a business purpose. So you could have two cars, identical, pickup trucks. One is just a family because they like to have a pickup truck. And they drive it around to go to the grocery store and go to the amusement park and all that, and daily use it's used. That would be covered by the lemon law. If that exact same vehicle was used for Joe's paint shop and used predominantly for Joe's paint shop, and more than 50% of the time it's to and from jobs and working on that, no lemon law coverage. You think, wow, That's kind of weird. It's the exact same car. But that's what the rule is. It's predominantly used for personal, family, or household use, which is over 50% of the time. What does it cover? It covers motor vehicles, cars, trucks, those sorts of things. Does not cover your ATV that you're driving through the woods and all that stuff. It's personal, family, hold vehicles. What does it cover? It covers vehicles that are purchased and leased or transferred in New York within the first 18,000 miles or 2 years from a date of original delivery, whichever comes first. So if you're me and you're driving a car, I can guarantee you I'm going more than 18,000 miles in the first 2 years. So once I hit the 18,000 miles, the new car lemon law ends, but I still have my manufacturer's warranty up to 36,000 and then any extended warranty that I purchase. So it's 18,000 miles or 2 years, whichever comes first. It also applies to vehicles registered in New York that are registered within New York within a reasonable period of time. So technically it applies to a vehicle you purchase in Pennsylvania but immediately register in New York. So you say you go south of the border to a dealership in just Scranton and you buy the vehicle, but you're a New York resident, you're going to register it in New York. The lemon law would apply to them. It's not likely to apply to someone who moves into New York State after they bought a car in Florida a year and a half ago. They only have 10,000 miles on it. They bring it back up to New York and then say, I mean, technically the law in New York applies, but it's unlikely that you're going to get a Florida dealership to be able to cover that. But technically it applies. It does cover motorhomes, but only the motor part of the motorhome, not the refrigerator, not the sink or anything like that, the engine and that sort of thing. What is the warranty? Up to 18,000 miles or 2 years from the date of delivery, whichever comes first, the manufacturer must fix any nonconformity that causes a substantial impairment in the use of the vehicle. So what's that mean? Well, it's anything that substantially impairs the value. Well, we could argue what substantially applies to, but it should cover anything that substantially impairs the value. So if you say that, if in 99% of the cases we can all agree, if the thing comes to, you drive the vehicle and every time you come to a stop, it stalls, it would cover that. Transmission issues, things like that. I mean, I can make a good argument that in the first, although it's usually covered in the manufacturer's warranty, and this is just an academic discussion, but if the windshield wipers don't work, yeah, I would say that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle if you have a new car and it's not fixed, so it's got to be fixed. So what is required? It's required of the manufacturer, the manufacturer's representative, which is usually the new car dealership in your local area, that they must fix the nonconformity within a reasonable period of time, or you get your money back. And our classic thought of what a lemon is. Lemon is a car that just, they can't figure out what's wrong with it and just keeps stalling every time you come to a stop. We've tried everything. If it substantially impairs the vehicle, it must be fixed. The rules are the repairs must be undertaken within 7 days. And if the manufacturer does not make the repair, then you are entitled to get your money back. They've got to make a reasonable attempt. You got to give them a reasonable opportunity, give the manufacturer a reasonable opportunity to repair. And it's considered to be reasonable if there are 4 or more repair attempts for the same problem, or the vehicle is out of service more than 30 days as a result of that impairment. If one of those meets, so let's say you took it in because it keeps stalling at an intersection and you've had it back in 5 times and they still have not been able to correct it, under the New York State's lemon law, you are entitled to get refunded your money for that vehicle. What do you get? You get the full purchase price back, which would include any trade-in allowance. So if you were given, you traded in a car toward the purchase price and they gave you, and it was $2,500, you're entitled to the $2,500 as well. You're entitled to any fees or charges, license fees, registration fees, those sorts of things. Here's the one caveat under the new car lemon law. Under the new car lemon law, if you've driven the vehicle more than 12,000 miles, there's a pro rata reduction in how much you get reimbursed for because you've put over 12,000 miles on the new car. So there's a calculation that you do so you may not get 100% back. If the dealer is not willing to give you your money back and can't fix the vehicle, there is a lemon law arbitration process that you go through that is very convenient for the consumers. It's done in your community. You file some forms. It goes to a third party. It goes through our office, but it's actually administered by a third party arbitration company. And the third party arbitration company will set up an arbitrator to come to your community. So be in the Ithaca area here to have a hearing to determine whether you have a defect that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle within the warranty period. And by the way, if that defect continues, even though it was identified within the warranty period, and you go outside the warranty period, if that defect has not been adequately fixed and it continues, then you're still covered because the defect occurred within the warranty period of time. So you can go through this arbitration process, and the arbitration is binding on the manufacturer, binding on the consumer as well. And if the arbitrator finds that it is a substantially impaired vehicle, you're entitled to get your money back, then you're entitled to get your money back. So that's the new car. Used car is a little bit different. Used car applies to vehicles, again, personal, family, household use. And it applies to vehicles that were purchased for over $1,500. Well, in this day and age, it's not hard to meet that threshold. It's really not that hard. And has, as we talked about before, less than 100,000 miles. It's purchased from a dealer, so it does not cover a private sale. But to be a dealer doesn't take much. To be a dealer, all you have to do is sell 3 or more used vehicles within 12 months. And somebody that puts a couple vehicles out on their yard, if they sell more than 3 in 12 months, they're actually a dealer under the lemon law. They actually should also be registered with the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles if they're doing that stuff. Now, here's the warranty. If the vehicle, again, we're talking about more than 18,000, so it's 18,100 miles, up to 36,000 miles, the warranty is 4,000 miles or 90 days, whichever come first. 36,001 miles to 80,000 miles, it's 3,000 miles or 60 days, whichever comes first. And then if it's 80,001 miles up to 100,000 miles, it's 1,000 miles or 30 days, whichever comes first. So it gradually gets smaller based on how much the vehicle has been used. And unlike the new car where it was any defect in the vehicle that substantially impaired the value, it could be anything that happens within the 4 tires of the vehicle, anything in there. The used car warranty is different. The used car vehicle is if any covered part is defective that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle, then it's covered. So, and it is the major things: engine, transmission, major components of the brakes, not the brake pads, because those things wear out over a period of time. But they're the major components. If they are a defect that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle, then they must be fixed. It excludes tune-ups, it excludes oil consumption, it excludes loss of time of the vehicle and that sort of thing. And what is the obligation of the consumer? The consumer must notify the dealer of the defect, notify them right away. The dealer must be given a reasonable opportunity to repair, and in this case, it's 3 or more attempts or 15 days out of service. That 15 days can be stretched to 45 days if that stretch is because there's a lack of parts. So the dealer has to get parts, and so it pushes him outside the 15 days, but it cannot go more than 45 days. The dealer's obligation is to fix the vehicle within the warranty period, and if the vehicle cannot be fixed, the dealer must give the money back. If the dealer is not willing to give the money back, we can fall back on the arbitration process, can file a lemon law arbitration claim to go through and have the arbitrator make the decision ultimately to get the consumer their money back. So these are the various options that people have. I think if we fall back to the fact that if we remain a good consumer, do our investigation, pick the right vehicle that we need, not necessarily what we want. We get the vehicle that we need to service us. We do our due diligence in purchasing that vehicle. I think that it'll end up coming out that it is a fair and reasonable transaction for the consumer. If a consumer has a problem with this issue, there's a number of ways to address it. One way to address it is if you're purchasing from a dealer, how I mentioned earlier was that the dealers need to be licensed by New York State Department of Motor Vehicles, and the Department of Motor Vehicles has vehicle inspectors actually that they will send out if you think that you got ripped off by a dealer, that they sold you a car that has a defect in it that should have never been sold to you, it should never pass the inspection or something like that. You can contact the Department of Motor Vehicles because they license the dealers and they have control over those dealers. Or you can go through, if it was a lemon law issue, you can go through our office with a lemon law arbitration claim. Or if you have a general complaint with the purchase of a vehicle, or actually a complaint related to any consumer topic, you can feel free to contact our office because our office operates we have a mediation program ourselves where we mediate consumer complaints against any businesses that are out there. You can file a complaint with our office. You can look online or look up our number and call us. We have a consumer representative that works out of our office that can answer your questions, give you guidance as to how to file a complaint. Complaint forms are available online. You can fill them out and send them into our office as well. And hopefully we can resolve your problem. Unless there's any questions related to automobile repair, it's been a pleasure to be here today. I encourage everyone to come out and join us here. We like it when people join us like they've joined us today. We put on this program on the second Thursday of every month at 11 a.m. at Cornell Cooperative Extension on Willow Avenue here in the city of Ithaca. Please come down and join us. You can raise a question. You can ask a question, and it might bring to mind something that I never even thought about that was really important, so we can talk about that. So I encourage you to come down and join us. So hopefully we will see you next time. And until then, thank you for joining us.